Hello, everyone. It's JK with Elevated Recovery, and today we have a treat for you. We have Sam Black from Covenant Eyes, which is filtering and accountability software. We're excited to have him today. And he's going to be talking to us a little bit about Covenant Eyes, what they do, and how they help a lot of young men, families, couples with the internet home filtering and security. So, Sam?
Hey, welcome. It's great to be here with you and excited for our discussion today.
Fantastic. So, Sam, why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about Covenant Eyes? It's everywhere. We hear about Covenant Eyes in the news. Whenever we talk about pornography addiction and filtering, we always hear about Covenant Eyes. And for everyone who's watching, I first met Sam last year at a conference. I believe it's the National Conference on against Sexual Exploitation. And it was a pleasure meeting him. Were you guys one of the sponsors?
We were.
Okay, yes.
We've been a big supporter of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation and their summits. And the reason is we believe we should change culture. As individuals, we need to be able to change culture to understand the impact that pornography is having on individuals, families. We need to stand up for what we believe in. And so we've helped finance the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. Through the National Center and other partners, we've done a lot to help other organizations understand the impact of pornography on families, the impact of pornography on individuals. So our team, along with the National Center, actually went to Google's headquarters, and we helped them understand the impact of pornography. And that's when Google 3 years ago agreed it would no longer sell advertising to pornography websites. So when you do a Google search today, you don't get all the ads you used to get for all the pornography sites. They also agreed that they remove all of the pornography apps that were in the Play Store. There used to be a lot of pornography apps in the Play Store. I recall that. The same is held true with so many different hotel chains. Through the National Center and through those discussions, Hilton, Hyatt, Sheraton, Sherwood, Holiday Inn, IHG Hotels, and others have agreed one by one that they'll no longer sell pay-per-view pornography in their hotel rooms. So there's 1.6 million hotel rooms today that no longer have pay-per-view pornography in their rooms. 2 years ago, I remember being in a Hilton. I was at a very big conference, and first thing I did, and my son was with me, and I walked into the room, and I wanted to check out the news, and the first thing I was bombarded with was advertisements for pornography.
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, okay. So I called down the front desk. It was the very next month that Hilton agreed it would no longer sell pay-per-view pornography in their rooms.
That is fantastic. I had no idea that Covenant Eyes was involved in advocacy towards that to this extent. So this is great news. It's great that everyone learns that y'all are much more than an accountability and filtering software company.
Well, we truly believe in what we do. We grew from the vision of our founder, Ron DeHaas, who's still our president, and he helped us. He's helped guide this company throughout with purpose for human dignity, that we should love people and use things and not vice versa. The brainstorm for Covenant Eyes came out of when he brought the internet home for his young sons. He was like, wow, this can really go bad. They can go sideways really fast. And so I could filter them, but I wouldn't teach them anything. And so one very distinctive things about Covenant Eyes is we're internet accountability first, providing a report that you use to have an ongoing conversation with someone you trust. Filtering is secondary, because filtering doesn't teach anything, and we'll talk more about that. But that was what his church, in his church, they practiced accountability. They got together, they'd have relationships, people that they trust, and they could share life together. And they would coach and support each other in community. And he says, that's what I want to do with my kids. I want to receive a report so I can have a conversation with them, so I can talk to them and not just block it, set it, and forget it. And I think that's very important in our culture today, for both parents as well as for especially individuals. We need the very best athletes, the very best in whatever sphere you're in. They get to have coaches that come alongside them. They get people in their lives that they trust to help them and motivate them, encourage them. Well, that's the same thing that we're talking about here. Covenant Eyes is simply a tool that helps facilitate that coaching, that friendship, that community, and gets away, removes the isolation and brings in someone that you can really get real with.
That's really awesome to hear. With a lot of my clients, I usually tell them that the example I use is when we grow up as children, we've had accountability with our parents. Our parents tell us to finish your vegetables, and they tell us to make sure we clean up after ourselves. But somehow when we get to the age of 18 or 21 years old, suddenly we enjoy the freedom to the point that we drop accountability on all levels. And then when we get into unfortunate situations where we might be dealing with something like a problem with pornography, we've lost the most basic part of accountability.
And lost the very basics of freedom. I hear from people on a regular basis talking about how accountability brings real freedom, because no longer you're a prisoner to all the things that are coming at you. No longer accountability actually lets you be more of who you really want to be, rather than all the outside influences that you've kind of gotten stuck in, rather than we've fallen into this trap. We don't, it's not who we are.
Definitely. Well, can you expand a little bit more on that? Mainly on accountability. Everyone has heard me go on and on about accountability, but y'all have a lot of data that your company has collected over the years and from different people that you all collaborate with. Can you tell us a little bit about why accountability is so important, especially for individuals? You can cover families as well, but why is it important for individuals on the internet?
Well, accountability is valuable. Let's step back to when I wanted to quit smoking. I had accountability and to help quit an addiction that I couldn't control. That the same tool that I used there, the same kind of concept that I used there, is also what I used to escape pornography myself. Because when I was addicted to nicotine, and smoking, it was a habit that I'd picked up. When I was stressed, angry, upset, whatever, that would be a good time to smoke. It just became all kinds of reasons to smoke. Well, the same had been true since my teen years with pornography, was that when I was stressed, I came from a violent home, and so stress, fear, anxiety, all those kinds of things were kind of mixed into that sphere. So when I recognized, hey, there's something wrong here, I was able through my own church to learn that, hey, pornography is compulsive and addictive. And they introduced the concept of accountability to me. And so I had someone that was able to walk with me, just like I did with smoking to quit smoking. I used accountability, got out a calendar and began marking out the days. And having these conversations reminded me who I really wanted to be. And that pornography was this thing in my life that wasn't who I wanted to be. It wasn't fulfilling. It was very, to me, shameful. It was not something I'd go out and brag about to my kids, or to my wife, or to my mom, or to anybody else. That wasn't very manly to be viewing pornography, and so I wanted to be more than that. And I have accountability. 3 guys today received my Covenant Eyes report today, even still, and that accountability. I have great accountability partners, guys that
till today you still have accountability partners.
Oh, it makes me a better dad. It makes me a better husband. it makes me a better person. It really does. And because we talk about everything. So simply extending accountability to every part of your life just gets, if you start with, hey, I need to deal with the issue of pornography in my life. This is a habit, a compulsive behavior, an addictive behavior I can't control on my own. I've told myself, I've promised my creator, I've promised others that I would no longer do this. I'm done. Today I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. You find yourself right in the same trap again. What an accountability partner can help you do is uncover why. When that happened, what was going on in your life? What are the underlying issues that you're struggling with? Have you dealt with some past pain? Let's talk that through. I mean, we have this great guide called Coming Clean, and it's about accountability relationships. So you can use that as a tool to help guide your accountability relationship. But really, accountability allows you to uncover what is so shame-based that you've always hidden before. And because it's always been in hiding, because it's always been undercover, you don't really address the problem. It becomes something that you put off. I can do this. I'm going to be better next week. But because you're not doing anything really about it with having accountability and talking it through and working on some real strong behaviors, positive behaviors, you're missing out on the opportunity to find freedom. And I really believe accountability is a tool that points to all the things you're doing, JK, to help people create habits of freedom and daily disciplines that really perpetuate freedom, perpetuate escape from a compulsive, addictive behavior that we really don't like, we hate, that's consumed us, that has hurt our relationships, that has hurt us individually, that makes us feel shame. Let's get rid of that. Let's live in freedom.
Fantastic. So there you go, folks. Accountability equals freedom. I talk to guys, and a lot of times they hide in shame. And I've mentioned it so many times that your addiction thrives in the shadows, and you do have to shine a light on it in order to get that freedom. And what Sam has just said is just basically accountability is a lot more than what you'll think it is. It isn't just texting someone or letting someone know what's happening. There's a whole process to it. Now, when we get into the technical details of it, I use Covenant Eyes with a lot of my clients, and it has so many nifty little features. But what I would love to see, Sam, is how we connect the benefits that you're talking about with accountability with the features of this software. Is there any way you can kind of demonstrate and show us how it actually works?
Yeah, let me share my screen here, and I'll run you through just a quick overview of how Covenant Eyes works.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. Let's do that.
Let me tell you just a little bit about how Covenant Eyes works, and then maybe it'll change a little framework of what you're thinking about a tool in helping you in your recovery. Fantastic. Most people think about filtering. Filtering is good for blocking mistakes and accidents, but it doesn't do very much to change behavior because there's no community about it. It's all done in secrecy. In fact, Barna Research did a study last year on the impact of pornography, and they found that every home that they interviewed where only filtering was being used, every home was actually accessing pornography. 11% were doing it daily, 16% were doing it at least weekly, and it went on from there. So we never provide filtering alone, but we pair filtering with accountability. And with accountability, you're actually getting a report that shows how the internet is used on your phones, tablets, and computers, etc. So you can have filtering to block accidents, mistakes, things like that. And you can set it to whatever age level you want.
Okay.
So filtering blocks accidents. Accountability shows intent, curiosity, interests.
Okay.
We're the only ones in the world that rate the pages on the internet like you'd see for video games and television shows. T for teen, M for mature, HM for highly mature. And then that makes it easy for your accountability partner to understand what they're seeing on our report. This is also where you set the filter settings. So if you set it to the mature level or highly mature level, then it would block only things rated highly mature or above. That means you can see everything else if you decide to use our filtering as well. But with Covenant Eyes, you can choose accountability with filtering, or you can choose accountability alone. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does.
I'm only held accountable. I can go anywhere I want to on the internet. I'm not blocked from anything at all. But 3 guys receive my report that shows how I'm using the internet. And even though, if you have a family and you say, hey, I want to protect myself, but I have a child as well that I want to protect, you create a separate username for them on your account. And so for my son, he's filtered at his age level, and he's held accountable, and his reports come to me and my wife, even though we're sharing the same devices. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's quite convenient.
Yeah, it's very, so I can be accountable to the men that I'm accountable to, and I send my report to my wife. I don't encourage that for everyone. You have to have time and sobriety before you're sending it often to your wife and that's a personal decision. You guys have to, you make that on your own. But many women can be diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder simply because of how many times they've been drugged through this. So men who have been struggling with this for a long time, and they've only been using their wife as an accountability partner, or she's been knowing about this, it causes a lot of stress. So you need to have someone that thinks like you think. Get another man in your life that can help you understand why you're doing what you're doing, whether it be your counselor or someone else that you can deeply trust with how you're using the internet and what's going on. So, okay. So with an accountability report, you set it to the level that you want to receive. Your accountability partner does this. So they decide what age level they want to receive it. And they set it to the teen level. Anything rated teen or above would appear on the report. If they set it to the mature level, then only things rated mature or higher would appear on the report. Now I have my accountability partners. I have one guy that receives my report at the teen level, and another one, all the rest of them receive it to mature level. And to me, that's their prerogative. You do get to make a suggestion. When you sign up who your accountability partner is going to be, you can suggest, hey, I recommend you receive my report at the mature level. A report evaluation appears with each report, and this isn't an actual report. This is just a quick graphical representation of a report.
Okay.
And it'll say one of 3 things. It'll say report looks good, review suggested, or close review recommended. And then that will allow your accountability partner to understand just how much time they need to spend with that report. We'll show the words that were typed into search engines like Google and Yahoo and Bing. Show a time and date for that, when that search was made, and provide a rating for that search. We'll show you the individual pages that were being viewed. So, and maybe your accountability partner doesn't know what break.com is. We'll provide a description of what that website is more about, a link to the individual page that was visited, the time and date that it happened, and a rating. We cover things like incognito mode and private browsing. So even if you're using incognito or private browsing, we're actually monitoring, and we can provide filtering in that as well. For your web searches, we're actually turning safe search on as well. So your safe searches are come back with more appropriate things, so that you're not being triggered by strange things that might appear in a search based on your past search history. I do encourage you to clear your cache. I do encourage you to clean up your computers, because there's a lot of things that can provide triggers that we don't want to be triggered, right?
Yes.
All right. So we'll show you the times a day the internet is being used. Often a lot of guys struggle here late at night. So maybe your accountability partner says, hey, I noticed that when you are finding the most difficulty, it's often late at night, why don't you turn off your computers during that time? You can also use our time controls to shut off your internet access for your computers. It doesn't happen for your iPad, iPhone, iPod Touch, or your mobile devices, but for your computers, you can use our time controls. But maybe you set a rule for yourself that, hey, when it gets past 10 o'clock at night, I'm going to set my phone down. I'm going to turn my phones off, my tablets off. This is just one of the daily disciplines that I need to have for myself, because late at night is when I struggle. The whole idea behind this is you're creating an ongoing conversation to build champions. There are issues that are happening where we need to encourage change. Let's build and change our thought process. Let's change what we're thinking about and build champions. We help you with these conversations we have more than 20 separate ebooks. And I think you're going to provide a link to one of them called the Porn Circuit.
Yes, I am.
And the Porn Circuit specifically examines the neurology behind pornography and why people get stuck, and provides some first steps about how to begin breaking free. Covenant Eyes, when you have a Covenant Eyes account, a Covenant Eyes username, you can download to as many devices as you have. It's unlimited. And we're serving on Windows and Mac computers, Android phones and tablets, Kindle, Kindle Fire HD, iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. Any questions about those details?
Yes, I had one question. Does Covenant Eyes link the mobile device and the computer or laptop report for whomever is being kept accountable?
So, for instance, we will show you on our report, which the report does not distinguish between he's using his Apple device, or his Mac or his Windows computer, and which Windows computer or which device otherwise. What it will show is just generally how the internet's being used across devices, as well for Android. We'll show you which apps are being used, how long they're being used, and if they click a link within an app, we'll show you the first website that's being visited as well. But I think it's also go ahead. Did you have another question after that?
No, I was actually going to say that that's very good. I did not know that it provided accountability within local apps on Android.
Yeah, and this, we're looking to Covenant Eyes website for future things for iOS as well. We're looking to expand further.
Great.
With Windows and Mac computers, you simply download Covenant Eyes software, and it begins working in the background, monitoring how the internet is used, and all the different browsers that are being used. For Android phones and tablets, again, it's working in the background, monitoring the browser, the stock browser that came with the device. We also monitor Chrome, and we encourage you to use those browsers specifically. That being because where they're most integrated into your device. So we encourage you to use the Chrome browser or the browser that came with your device, and not other browsers. I also encourage you to get rid of any apps on your device that might be causing a trigger for you, even if it's something that you really enjoy. Maybe you really enjoy using Twitter, but maybe Twitter has too much pornography on it for you. Maybe it's luring you into pornography binging. So maybe that's an app you give up for a while. You can also use, I often encourage people to, if they're going to use Twitter or etc., to do it through the browser. They're all web-based products anyway, rather than through the app, because we're going to show you the top domain that was visited, or if you click on a link within an app, we're going to show you the website that was visited, but we're not going to show all the individual pieces, parts that you're scrolling through. And so I think that's important to recognize the limitations of this tool. It is a tool to help encourage a conversation. And then separately for iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, what happens here, at least currently, again, be watching our website for updates and changes, you download a separate browser, and we're monitoring the browser. So things for like, we're not going to monitor the other apps on iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, simply because of Apple's restrictions. They don't allow anyone to, at this point, to view some different things, but be watching our website again for some updates.
Fantastic.
And so, for instance, you might use, instead of having to get rid of the Twitter app, now you're going to have your accountability partner help you set up Covenant Eyes on your devices so that you don't have access to turn things on and off. So for instance, for iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, we have a guide that walks you through installing Covenant Eyes and using restrictions on the phone that will limit which apps can be installed and how the device is used. So we're going to monitor the Covenant Eyes browser that you install, but we're not going to monitor the different apps that are being used on the phone. So that means you need to clean up the apps that are on your device. This is only true for iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. And again, we have a guide that walks you through that. So one of the things I encourage is instead of using the Twitter app or the Facebook app, use the Covenant Eyes browser, log into your YouTube app, or log into YouTube instead of using the YouTube app, log into Twitter instead of using the Twitter app. And then what you're doing online is being monitored there as well. So when I use YouTube through the Covenant Eyes app, my accountability partner actually sees all the individual titles of the YouTube videos that I watch.
All right, fantastic. So I think that's a very critical piece of information. And for those of you who are watching this and are thinking of getting, let's say, a friend of yours or a family member of yours to be an accountability partner, I think it's very important to kind of sit down with them if you have the time and watch this video and listen to what Sam has to say specifically about the differences between iOS and Android. And just to reiterate your point, Sam, you are saying that on the iOS devices, it is best to, first of all, clean up the apps that might be triggering and install the Covenant Eyes browser for accountability.
That is correct. You're actually then going to turn off the Safari browser, and your accountability partner will then have a passcode to your phone so the Safari browser cannot be turned back on. Okay. You'll turn off installing apps or deleting apps. Now, this can work one of two ways, and I'm going to get a little complex with you, and I hope you can bear with this. All right, so for the first months, I would encourage you to turn off installing apps. That way you have to go to your accountability partner and say, hey, I would like to use this app, and I think it's safe, and here's why. And then your accountability partner can walk with you through that app to make sure that there's not an opportunity for you to be triggered within the app. That makes sense?
Yes, that does.
For my son and for myself, I've moved beyond the turning off installing apps, and so now I can install any app that I want, but I can't delete any apps, nor can my son delete any apps off his phone. So my accountability partner at any time will pick up my phone and see what apps I've installed. Now, I want to make sure that I'm personally not installing any apps that would trigger me or, where inappropriate content could be. So, but now I'm at a point where I can make my own decisions and keep purity in my own life. And so it becomes an exercise to the next step. Now, if that becomes too difficult, you can always go back to, hey, I can't seem, I'm triggered, and I downloaded this app, and I viewed porn. So let's step back to where we turned off installing apps. And now you approve all my apps. But if there comes enough freedom after a period of time where you can install apps and be safe there, and if there is any trip, you can discuss that with your accountability partner. But you get to a point where, hey, I'm going to be open with how I'm using my device. My accountability partner, I'm going to make sure he has access to my device. And now I can update my apps and all those kinds of things. And I have a little more freedom with maybe downloading a game or something of that nature, or an athletic app, something that like tracking my running progress or whatever else. But that comes with learned freedom. Does that make sense?
That definitely does. I think that's a great point that you're making. It shows that accountability starts with you first. You actually have to make that decision to trust your partner to be able to gain the benefits of something like Covenant Eyes.
If you're not honest with your accountability partner, if you're not coming to them, not waiting for them to quiz you, but you're going to them to keep this conversation going, then you're not finding healing for yourself. You're going to find yourself tripping over the same issues that you've been tripping over for years, and you don't want that. Mm-hmm. So Covenant Eyes is simply a tool that helps you engage with your accountability partner and help your accountability partner engage with you.
And I have one more question on the technical aspect before we move on. I know this must be a question that's going to be in the mind of most of the audience, but what happens if someone is triggered to the point that they actually try to bypass momentarily Covenant Eyes? Is there a way that the accountability partner can be either alerted to this or something of that nature?
Things that happen. One, the most common ways or often ways that people try to manipulate the software or, that they've used for other pieces of software, they often end up on your accountability report. So we'll actually show you instances where people might be trying, we show on the report, it looks like someone's trying to attempt to disable the software or find ways around the software.
Okay.
We report some things like proxies and other things that, anonymizers and things like that. So things that are common to getting around the filter ends up on your report with Covenant Eyes.
Oh, that's excellent.
To uninstall Covenant Eyes, you need to create a Covenant Eyes username, a Covenant Eyes passcode. Mm-hmm. And this code is entered to remove this uninstall code is what it's actually called. I'm sorry, I said passcode, but an uninstall code. You're going to generate that through either calling in or through a special piece on our website. And then but once you create an uninstall passcode, your accountability partner is notified that you've created a code to uninstall the software.
Okay.
Now with iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, that's not the same because your accountability partner has the passcode for you before you can delete anything or install.
Okay. That's excellent.
The accountability partner is engaged there. But for Windows and Mac computers, Android devices, you're using an uninstall code.
Okay. It's quite clear at this point that the software is very extensive and y'all have thought of a lot, and y'all are still expanding on it as, for instance, the new iOS comes out, and you'll pretty much adapt and grow with devices.
Yes, and there's very cool things coming down the pike. What we do with Covenant Eyes now will look much different than in the near future, especially this time next year. You can really expect to see some very cool stuff. We're constantly pour the income that we earn through our subscriptions goes right back into developing the software, providing our educational resources, and doing things that we believe can help change lives and encourage people.
Mm-hmm. As we round up, Sam, what have some of your happy users got to say about the software?
Oh, wow. What's so cool is we get, when we go to a conference, we get just people just on a regular basis, hey, just want to come by and say thank you for what you've done in our life. We get emails every day. We're the only ones in this industry that provide free customer support, 8 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday, 10 to 6 on Saturday. You get to talk to a real live human being. So maybe you're having any kind of difficulty with our software, you get to talk to a real person here in the United States, and we'll be there to support you. 8 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday, 10 to 6 on Saturdays. That's Eastern time. We are closed on Sundays. And so those people hear lots of those beautiful stories. We just constantly hear this, but here's some of the common things we hear. for what Covenant Eyes has done in our life. Because of Covenant Eyes, I've been able to rebuild trust in my marriage. I thank you for what you've done in my life. For the first time, I was talking to a man, and he was in his 40s, and he had gotten to day 3 without viewing pornography. And he said, after installing Covenant Eyes and getting accountability and having these conversations, I got to day 3, and I realized this is the first time since I was a teenager that I haven't viewed porn in 3 days.
Oh, my goodness.
We hear this from parents who say, I just had the most amazing conversation with my teen, or, these kinds of things, these redemptive stories are just amazing. We are in about the business of helping people find freedom. And we're encouraged to have partners like you and Elevated Recovery and the other counselors and others that are helping people find freedom. And if that's the recurring theme, that's what we hear. We hear from guys that say, I can walk into a convenience store and see the pornography magazine behind the rack and not be tempted to buy it. I've made the right decisions so many times online that now I can make the right decisions offline as well. It is a journey. And Covenant Eyes is a tool that helps you in that journey. We're not the answer to everything. We're just simply a tool that helps you communicate with someone, help them communicate with you to find freedom.
Thank you so much for that explanation, Sam. I appreciate it. Guys, I think in conclusion, I believe that we are so fortunate to be in a situation, and you should consider yourself fortunate to be exposed to something like Covenant Eyes. It truly is a tool that you can bring into your home. And I know some of you have heard about software like this and might have heard about Covenant Eyes, but you just never had the opportunity to truly understand the impact something like this can actually have in your life. One of the things I'm actually going to do moving forward is that there is a wonderful free resource, and Covenant Eyes provides everything from materials for couples, for spouses of male porn addicts who have just discovered that their husband is using pornography, all the way to young men and older men too who might be struggling with porn-induced erectile dysfunction. Sam, in conclusion, why don't you tell us a little bit about this book which you authored for Covenant Eyes called The Porn Circuit?
Well, thank you. I spent 18 years as a journalist before I joined Covenant Eyes, and this is just a way to take a complex topic and break it down into an easy to understand and easy to read ebook, and it's free. So you just click on that link, you download it, and it provides you with a clear understanding of why people get stuck, how repetition actually ingrains these neural pathways into the brain and creates a dependency, a compulsive behavior, addictive behaviors toward using pornography. And I regularly hear people understand, once I understood what I'd done to my brain and how I've gotten stuck here, then it allowed me to understand how to begin breaking free. It gives focus and attention to that. Where am I at now? And how can I begin breaking free?
Excellent. And on that note, guys, I would really like to thank Sam for the time that he spent with us telling us a little bit about his company, about Covenant Eyes, and the wonderful work that they do for us. Guys, they produce absolutely beautiful material. Everything, I've downloaded a lot of their free resources. Everything I've gotten from Covenant Eyes is basically top-notch. These guys go all out when it comes to producing and giving value. So take advantage of at least the Porn Circuit. And it's a little book, but it's a great book that Sam broke everything down to help you really understand what is going on with your brain. Any last words, Sam?
First 30 days free of Covenant Eyes,
yes,
regardless of how many devices, regardless of how many usernames, whether you sign up for a family account or an individual account. They use your code. They receive 30 days free. And I would like to add one more thing.
Yes, go ahead.
Two things often hinder people from taking action. And one is shame, because if someone really knew the struggle that they were going through, maybe they wouldn't be loved anymore. And I haven't found that to be true. I find that you find someone you trust who cares about you, and they will gladly be your accountability partner and help you walk through this difficult issue. They will need some education, so you'll want to share the porn circuit with them so they can begin understanding where you're coming from. The number 2 thing is procrastination, and procrastination kills good intentions. So instead of lying to yourself again and saying, I can fix this alone, find some accountability, get some good counseling, get with Elevated Recovery, and begin working on this issue today. Don't wait.
All right, fantastic. Well, you heard it. So now you all know, those of you in Elevated Recovery and those of you in the Porn Reboot program, that I'm not the only one who's saying this. Sam is saying this here as well. You are worthy of being loved. That's the first thing. And the second thing, even if you're procrastinating, you got to take that first step and work with somebody, and you're going to be just fine. All right. So Sam, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you. It's an honor to be with you.